Welcome to the Real-Time Visual Effects Podcast, the place to hear from some of the video game industry's most seasoned artists and up your game. Listen in on how you can learn and grow as a VFX artist, discover your own wizard, and network with hundreds of other talented magicians in the real-time visual effects community. Here is your host, Travis McCallum.
Hey everybody, I have Paulina Miciulevičiūtė, a VFX artist at Tuatara, who has been working in the games industry on titles like Valorant and Treasure Title. She has over 5 years of experience working in the Unity engine and has published her own assets for other artists to use. Based in Vilnius, Lithuania, Paulina is a strong voice in the gaming community as a VFX Summit Advisor for the Game Developers Conference and a board member for the Lithuanian GDC. Paulina, how are you doing today?
Hey, Travis. Doing super great, thank you.
We were just talking, we're about I think 8-hour difference, so it's noon here and it's 8 p.m. over there. The European coast, is the weather pretty sunny or is it pretty cold or is it pretty warm? What are you feeling over there?
Actually, today was a super beautiful day, sunny, and we had like 15 Celsius, which is very, very warm for this time of the year.
Good. Glad you can get outside and have some fresh air. So I want to talk about some of these awesome projects that you have been working on. Let's start at the beginning with your origin story. How did you get started in visual effects?
In visual effects, let's see. So I was already working at Unity, and how I got into Unity is a whole another story. I was working at Unity and I just saw like all of the graphics guy do cool stuff with shaders. I really wanted to learn shaders. So I just started off by picking up a course on Udemy, I believe, and I just started it. I had like zero programming background. The course was really, really helpful. And I made my first simple shaders because for me, like at that time, like visual effects were just shaders. There were no particle systems. Like only later that I understood, oh, you can actually put in shaders into particle systems. And that like blew my mind, like, wow, the technology. So I started doing that. And then I watched some tutorials on YouTube and I got the aha moment, like the missing puzzle piece, what I wanted to do in life. That's the start. And everything else was just learning more stuff on top of it.
Okay, walk me back a little. You started at Unity, and that's a game development company, right? It's an engine or a platform for game dev?
Yeah, Unity is a game development engine.
Was that your first job ever, or how did you end up there?
Yes, it was my first job ever. I mean, like I worked as a waitress for 3 hours, but another story for another time. It's a first normal job, and I started off as a QA. The classic story, started off as a QA and then worked myself up into other positions.
Did you know you wanted to get into video games early on in life?
Yes, because I love video games and I played so many video games at that time. And I just really wanted to do something, at least going into that direction. Even when I got into Unity, like the first task was to actually create a video game for the QA position. So it like just to show that you understand the engine itself. So it was, I guess, my first experience of like creating an actual game there.
Talk me back to your earliest childhood memory of a video game when you saw or played it. What was that like?
Oh, so it was on PlayStation 1. It was my brother's. And my brother didn't like to share with me, of course. But I remember we used to play Tekken. I think the character was King. I always played as a King and also the Capoeira guy. Yeah.
Oh, so your debut was really in the fighting game community. Wow. Is
Yep.
that still kind of where your area of interest is, or is it kind of expanded into other genres?
Definitely expanded. I mostly play like fantasy games and like RPG games. Like that's my favorite stuff. Not anymore like fighting. Maybe I guess like at a party or somewhere else, like casual gaming. Yeah, sure.
Rock on. So right now you're working at Tuatara. Can you tell me just a little bit about your resume in game companies and specifically on the VFX side? You were doing VFX at Unity as your first job. Let's start there.
Like at Unity, like I've learned about shaders and I thought to myself, oh, I want to do visual effects. And I started to talk very loudly about that to everybody, my producers, my managers, like, oh, I love visual effects. And they said like, hey, Paulina, do you want to try to make some visual effects for the template projects? I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I want to do that. So my first experience with that was just like making, I guess, like simple, very simple visual effects for the template projects that I think are still in use right now. Like if you download the engine and you can choose like a template project, that started with that. And then like I thought to myself like, hey, I want to do this full time. Like little effects are not doing it for me. Simply, I decided to quit and I had no plan, absolutely. Like I felt like I'm not going to work for a year, maybe like create a portfolio and then find a job. After 2 weeks, I went to like this local event, like game developer meetup, and I started talking about visual effects there. And turns out everybody is looking for visual effects artists, and that's how I landed, I guess, my first job, like at a mobile company. But I've only stayed there for 2 months because I got another offer to work for Golem House. We created the game Treasure Tile, so I moved there and I worked there for 1 year. But then unfortunately, as an indie company, we closed down. So I had to find like other places and eventually I landed to Tuatara.
Tell me just a little bit about Treasure Tile real quick. What's the game and what kind of effects did you get to do for it?
It was an ARPG. What's different is like it was all made from tiles and it had like a lot of inspiration from World of Warcraft and like Hearthstone, all of like that universe and that like painterly stylized style. I made gameplay visual effects. I don't know, I made some environment effects too. And it was super, super fun because like I got to do a fantasy game and I love fantasy and it's also like super stylized and I had so much fun and the team was really, really great. I remember the time period, like I was walking to the office and I felt just so happy to be working in games. It was like one of the most beautiful moments, definitely.
Rock on. Then you were at Tuatara. What kind of effects did you get to do over there?
At Tuatara, I had the experience to work on 2 projects. At first, I worked on Battle Shapers, which is created by Metric Empire. I think early access is out now. There, I created some simple like gameplay effects. It's an FPS shooter. And at Valorant, which is like what I'm doing right now, working with Riot on Valorant, very cool game. I'm creating environment effects. Riot constantly makes new maps and I work on them, simply put.
That's really cool. I love all those games. I was just wondering if you could just very briefly talk about your VFX production pipeline from start to finish. What does it look like to create an effect?
So I guess it depends like on the situation because each time is a little bit different. And the most usual is I get handed like a concept of what the client wants, for example, what Riot wants to be made. And yeah, we talk with the team, the art director, and we just like discuss it, like really talk about like all of the atmosphere, anything that might impact the visual effect. And then I just like I don't know, I get started. So like from softwares for 3D meshes, I use Blender. For textures, I use Photoshop and Substance Designer. I guess that's pretty much it, honestly, from software. Of course, Unreal, the engine, yes. And shaders, create shaders. But usually it's like, I guess you block out an effect, kind of like get to a first draft version, then you send it for feedback. We usually do feedback rounds with my lead or just with the team, honestly, just share it. And then everybody comments and then you just build on it and you build and you build and you build and you go back and forth until it is done.
Side note here, you had mentioned that you work out of Blender for your 3D modeling. I just saw in the 2025 Oscars that a short film had won an Oscar for working in Blender. And I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. I don't know if you're into film or movies or anything like that. Animated films, I guess.
Yeah, and the cool thing is they are guys from
Flow was the
yeah
name.
Flow. Yeah. It was created by Latvians, so friendly country like from Lithuania, neighbors. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I still haven't seen it.
Real-time visual effects. How would you define it if you were to give it a one-sentence definition?
It depends. If I am explaining this to my family, for example, my mother or my father or my grandmother, I always say it's just like, you know those explosions in movies? I make those things, but like in video game. And they're like, but what's a video game? And then you try to explain what's a video game. It's impossible, honestly. Like to all people, it's really, really hard. I mean, nobody understands. Like, I show them, they still don't understand. Like, they see something moving. They don't have, like, I guess, the concept that it's a video game. Very interesting for the fellow gamers or just people, who play games. It's easier to explain because you can say, oh, like I create muzzle flashes for guns, or if you see something sparkling there, like that's a visual effect.
Can you tell me a little bit about the purpose of visual effects in games? Why do we need them?
I believe visual effects is like the spice of the game, and it really adds magic and wonder to the game, and it breathes in this life. Because without it, it just looks very, very plain. You can still make a great game without visual effects. I don't know, it just wouldn't be so cool, I guess.
Walk me through a day in the life of Paulina from sunrise to sunset. Your alarm goes off, the sun rises, you're in bed. What happens next?
I get out of bed, and then usually I go to the gym or I go on a run. I take my health very, very seriously. So I do that stuff. It's like a free time day. I just go for a very long breakfast and I make my pancakes. I eat pancakes every day because I'm an adult and I can. So I do that. I have my coffee, and then usually like maybe I would just like sit and enjoy my coffee, or maybe journal a bit and just think about life. So very, very slow, kind of like get ready for the day, and then the work starts. So usually there are some morning meetings just like to prepare for the week if it's like the beginning of the week.
And are you working in person or remote right now?
Remote. So completely from home, which is great. I love it. It's the best thing. So yeah, so meetings, and then you start to work, maybe like watch some feedback if there is like any videos left, or maybe somebody left a comment, and then you kind of like plan your day and just get working.
Work's going on, and then I guess it's kind of like an 8-hour shift typically.
Yeah, 8 hours.
You're at home and you're able to kind of separate work from play in a lot of ways, and don't get distracted with your shiny toys around the house. What do you do after work?
Usually for a walk. I'm at home the whole day, so I need to get some steps in. I also dance, so I go to dance practices or just like meet up with friends. So anything that I can get like social interaction, I guess.
And usually you get to bed at a decent hour, right? So you get your full
Yes.
8 hours of sleep.
Yes, like 10 when I turn off everything, like all of the electronics, and just like wind down and then just go to bed.
All right, I know that you had mentioned a couple of games you worked on, Treasure Tile and Valorant. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about a particular problem or challenge that you ran into on any effect that you've done, or any kind of, communication piece, what that problem was and how you overcame that and came up with a solution.
It was on Valorant, the last map that I worked on. I made this, it was very hard for me because the challenge was that I had to create a waterfall, which is affected by radianite, and radianite is like this special substance in the game which makes things go kind of crazy and you get like powers and stuff. So the waterfall is affected by radianite, and it's actually became a reverse waterfall. Like the whole concept to me is like, whoa, this is not like real life. You have to create something new, something that has never been created before. So the challenge that I had is like when I was creating the waterfall, I kind of went like onto the like super realistic route, which was a problem because the game is stylized. So I had to do many iterations. I don't know, like the problem that I had was the waterfall felt very airy, not like liquidy, and it's super hard to make like liquid stuff, especially in a stylized game. I had some help from my lead, Bruno Fonseca, and we kind of like worked it out, and then I did some stuff. Like usually when you're getting close to the deadline, it feels like some pressure, and I always see that diamonds are made under pressure. So when you reach that moment, I don't know, something happens, it clicks, and then everything goes fine. I guess like you have to go through a lot of iterations to make the visual effect great. I always kind of like forget about that. You want to make the visual effect amazing from the first try, but it never happens. I don't know why, but I always forget it. That okay, Paulina, it takes quite some time to create something very beautiful, and it's okay to have many iterations, and you should have to.
I love that piece you said at the end. There are so many aspiring artists who are wanting to hold on to their effect until it's complete, instead of sharing iterations of the effect and getting feedback, especially on the forums, right? Or the Discord for the real-time thing. They're like, I'm not ready to share it yet. I'll share it when it's complete. But it never really is complete complete. And I'm sure you've seen that in your effects, especially after you ship them out and you see them
Oh,
in the
yes.
game. You're like, oh man, I wish I had, done this or done that. Hey, sometimes the ship's got to sail. So
Yeah, that's true.
just curious, because I'm a big Valorant player, what map is that waterfall in if I want to check it out?
I don't remember the official name because I cannot share the production name of the map.
Fair, I understand.
The map is where you can jump off. It's surrounded by waterfalls. It's the latest map that came out, honestly.
So we talked about a big challenge for you, and maybe this is the same answer. What do you feel like your biggest accomplishment, the thing that you're most proud of? If somebody were to play a game that you've worked on, you would point at the effect and you'd be like, I did that. What is it?
I guess it's like the reverse waterfall. Honestly, like every map that I did with the Riot team is like an accomplishment because the people working there are so amazing and they have so many great ideas, and like all of the ideas are so creative, and every time it's such a challenge and also an honor to work with them and just to create something super amazing. The answer would be like my last visual effect that was released, so it was the reverse waterfall.
Reverse waterfall. Got it.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about environmental conditions. You working at your first studio, you were on site, and then now you're in a remote setting. Can you just talk to me a little bit about the pros and cons for both and why you may prefer remote over on-site?
Yeah, so I can also like compare it because in Golem House, the indie studio that I worked on, we only were 4 people in the office. So it was still very quiet and very friendly. But then I did have an experience to work at a mobile company, which was a huge office and like an open office. And then, of course, Tuatara right now at home. Honestly, like out of all of the options, I would prefer working on site with a small team because of communication. You can always reach out, you can joke. It's very easy to communicate and you really can create games like very fast. I don't like open offices. I don't want to go back to that, honestly. All of the like loud noises, I guess you can have like noise canceling earphones. I don't know. It's just like, it's stressful. You have to commute to the office. That takes a lot of time and then you get drained. It just takes away a lot of your free time that you can have like hobbies and stuff. And working from home, why I love is because of that. I get to not commute. I get to wake up kind of like whenever I want and just like get the job done because the clients and me, we are in a different time zones anyway. So as long as I deliver my work, then everybody is happy and it's great.
I'm thinking about like how easy life is when you're just a VFX artist, because all you got to do is your art. And once you start kind of moving up to like the lead or the supervisor, now you're not just doing art, you're also managing people and relationships and schedules and stuff like that. I feel like you're living the high life right now. Things are good.
Yeah, things are good.
Unity, you were wearing multiple hats. We just talked about this. In terms of VFX, you had mentioned that shaders specifically was something that really interests you. I have a little bit of experience, working in shader graph and the material editor with Unreal. Is that kind of your bread and butter, is like going in there and building out material graphs and blueprints and stuff like that? Just talk to me a bit about your interest in VFX and kind of where you feel like your strong suits are.
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, like in my everyday life, I guess, yes, for environment effects, for Valorant, for example, I mostly use only like the material editor. So nodes barely use any particle systems, honestly. Everything, even like particle systems, they're not particle systems. They're just like usually cards, and then you displace them to look like particle systems. It's cheaper that way.
Well, let me ask you, for somebody coming into VFX, it can be really intimidating to like open up those node-based networks, especially if you don't have a programming background. What kind of advice or pieces of wisdom would you have to share with somebody kind of entering this sphere of knowledge, and how would you recommend they go about learning it and really making stuff happen?
Honestly, I would say at first, like, do not be afraid of the spaghetti mess if you have it. That's the first thing. And another thing is just like take it slow. Do watch tutorials. Try to not to copy, but really understand why you are using the nodes that you are. Like, what's the math? What's the logic? I remember like a lot of things for me opened up when I started to visualize the nodes through mathematical graphs, because then it made sense for me. If you have like some math background, then you kind of like remember what you did in school. For me, it was like connecting what I've learned in school, like geometry lessons, and then what I do with like visual effects, just like kind of like visualizing the math behind the shaders.
Great. I also want to talk about working at a third-party studio because it's different than working directly for a first party like you were with Golem. I just want to call it Golem. I don't know, Lord of the Rings reference.
Yeah.
You're not only working with your team, but you're also working with another team as well. And in, I guess this case, Riot was one of the clients that you did. You may work with other clients as well in the future. You have in the past. You just talk a little bit about that kind of relationship and how that works internally and then externally as well.
Like the work itself, I can very much say that, for example, if you work in-house or like an indie company or just like normal game developer company, you get to solve a lot of problems with the developers themselves. That's actually like the very fun part for me, just like to solve problems with other like developers. And as you work for a client, you just like really deliver just the visual stuff. From working side of things, that's like the biggest difference. But for company relations or something inside, yeah, like we have our own teams. They have different projects, and we function as another company. And I myself, I really love that as a worker because you have sort of like another layer of protection. For example, if a client doesn't like you, your company can put you in another project, or if you don't like the client itself. So you get like way more freedom and an option to choose like what you want to work on. So it's great because you can then really go on your path where you want to be as a visual effects artist, and you can get to choose the projects. Tuatara is very open with that and very transparent, and you can just like say what do you want, and they will do their best like to get the project that you want.
That's great. I love that you have the opportunity to kind of utilize your strengths on the projects that you are passionate about. Really, really hard to work on a game or a project that you have no interest in, and you're like, I'm just here for the paycheck. For you specifically, you're doing something that brings you joy every day. Sure, there are hard times, I'm sure, but for the most part. You had mentioned it earlier, like, I like the fantasy world, and Valorant is kind of in the fantasy space.
Yeah.
Not only are you an amazing VFX artist, but you are also very active in the community as well. Can you just talk to me a little bit about the advisor role that you play, but also being a board member for GDC? What is that all about?
For the upcoming GDC that's going to happen in 2 weeks, actually. Whew, that's coming soon. So we have like a visual effects summit, visual effect presentation. This year, I was nominated by somebody from my company, and I got chosen as an advisor for the Visual Effects Summit. Me and a couple of other advisors for this year prepared presentations. So basically, I had my voice like to tell what this year GDC is going to be about visual effects. So it was a great experience, still very busy. My involvement in the Lithuanian community. So in Lithuania, we have Lithuanian Game Developers Association, which is an association that just basically organizes game dev events, tries to grow professionals. I guess every country has that. And I was a board member there, and I just helped to like make decisions, I guess, and shape the industry into a better place in Lithuania, which is growing very fast. And I'm so happy. And we have like new companies coming in. All of the professionals are like growing, and we are having more talents here. It's great. I'm super happy about that.
So let's talk about that for a second. What are some of the growing trends that you see happening in Lithuania that is for the good, or are challenges that are facing the industry specifically in your country right now, comparatively to what's going on in the rest of the world, that you feel like, hey, we want to help build this portion up?
Okay, the first thing, it's growing and a lot of companies are coming in. Another thing, I saw the difference big. So we are in a very, very bad situation right now where the game industry is laying off people, and a lot of people. But as a difference in Lithuania, we are constantly looking for more people and more talents. So since everything is growing so fast, the biggest challenge is that we don't have enough people who have valuable experience. There are many people who are like into the games, and there are a lot of opportunities for young professionals as well. But the challenge is we don't have like those veterans, those like senior people that can really help the project grow very, very fast.
I understand the game industry business this is a very expensive venture. You're taking a lot of risk when you go into these development cycles that can take years to really kick off. And there's not always a guarantee that you're going to make your money back from all the investment hours. It's always curious how different countries kind of operate when it comes to running business. And video games being such a high risk, high reward, you often wonder, like, how can we make this sustainable for our citizens and all these aspiring people who want to get involved?
Yeah, so honestly, like a lot of the companies here do like outsourcing. A lot of the companies just do games for other people and then they get money and then they create their own games as much as possible. That's one thing. Yeah, we do have like some government grants, I guess, and a lot of like accelerators taking off like in the country. Stuff is happening. We are going to like better places.
You got me at the word grow. You're growing. So I love
Yeah.
hearing that. I love hearing that. I want to talk about things outside of VFX, hobbies or passions that you have that make you a bit more rounded person. And one of them you just briefly mentioned earlier was you like dancing. So
Yes.
tell me a little bit about dancing and anything else out there.
So dancing. So recently, like I started to get into this new dance. It's called tribal fusion, which is a dance that mixes belly dance with street dances. So it's a mix of both. I guess it's a new dance. But before I used to dance Lindy Hop and solo jazz, which is like dancing to like old-timey swing music. I guess I've been dancing for like 5 or 6 years now. It's really a passion of mine. Like I really like it. It's like a meditation to me.
You know who else benefits from dancing? Animators. They love
That's true. Yeah.
branding and the importance of making a name for yourself. I guess my question here is, how important is it for somebody to have an online presence?
Very, because I started off with that. Like as a background for other people, like I'm from Vilnius, Lithuania, which is like a post-Soviet country. There's not like a lot of game development going on here. Like imagine, like I get to make visual effects for Valorant for this huge company right from my home. And how did I get that? Like with marketing and making a name for myself. So when I was working at Unity and I started to talk very loudly, I saw that people actually like start to associate you with visual effects. So I thought like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing, but on the internet. So I created my own site and then I started to post, first of all, post locally, just so that I could get to connect to the professionals in the area. And then I started to post things in the forum, the real-time visual effects forum, which is like a super useful tool to learn. And then I guess just people started to notice me. One thing that really got me, I had like even like to grow followers on Twitter, now known as X, is to actually share my knowledge and give back to the community. So I created a presentation that went viral, I guess, sort of viral. It didn't go too far. Yeah, it connected me to a lot of other artists.
What was the name of the presentation?
How to create a slamming AOE. Yep. Yeah.
It's good educational piece, right? So I definitely agree that having an online presence can only benefit you. And I love that you mentioned finding your community. You actually started locally and then you found the VFX community and then you kind of expanded it into social media, maybe as like that tertiary kind of network. But you don't always have to be on social media, or do you feel like social media is mandatory?
It depends what do you want. Honestly, like if you're content with just working locally, you can just meet up people. Just having like real connections with people and talking to them, I think it's the number one, the most valuable thing that you can do in this industry, because it is so small. Everybody knows everyone, so just be nice, be friendly. You will get a job, I guess, like honestly.
I actually discovered you through LinkedIn. That was my connecting point as well.
Mm-hmm.
Question about a personal project or goal that you have right now. What are you working on? What's cooking in
What's cooking?
2025?
I have a lot of things cooking. I even started like me and my friend, we started to make a video game, but that's on pause now. So I have 3 things that I'm focusing this year that I like actually wrote down and I stuck it to my wall. It's dancing. That's one thing, to performance stuff. Another thing is just taking care of my health and getting plenty of sleep. Like this is a very big priority of me. And the third one is finance, but I'm not gonna talk about that.
You got to
3
stay off
things.
Amazon. You got to stay off Amazon.
Yes. It's very hard.
All right, Paulina, are you ready for the lightning round questions? Quick and easy, just like visual effects.
Yes.
What is a perfect one-day getaway in Vilnius, Lithuania, and the surrounding area?
I would say just take a walk in the Vilnius Old Town, especially if it's summer and it's evening. It's so beautiful. The sun shines like through the streets. It's very, very pretty. Or if you want to go a bit further, there is a historical town called Trakai, which has this castle and lakes around. It just like looks very medieval, very fantasy. So if you're into that stuff, definitely go there.
I know I'm shooting my next movie. What video game or app are you using on your phone that is the most fun?
So it's an app that's called English Poetry, which is just that. It has English poems and it has like a very big database of that. When I don't know what to do, I just pull up and just read a couple of poems and it just like brightens up my day.
What is your favorite thing to cook or eat?
My protein oat pancakes, which I do every morning. It's the best meal.
What is your favorite book or podcast you've listened to recently?
So right now I'm on like 2 podcasts. So one is about money, which is the Morgan Housel podcast. And then another one is about just life, I guess, and like psychology and just getting better. It's Aware and Aggravated by Leo Skepi.
Best advice for first-time visual effects artists or people looking to get into the industry?
Talk loudly about what you do and do not hide. Like say that you are a visual effects artist when you meet people, and people will start to associate you with that and you will definitely get ahead.
Favorite video game visual effect you are jealous of that is not your own?
It's from Red Dead Redemption 2. When you start the game, the area is very snowy. It's the snow. It's the snow in Red Dead Redemption 2. It's beautiful. I don't know how they made it. It's just great.
What are you most excited about for the future of visual effects?
Less technical limitations. That's pretty much it. I am not very up to speed with technical things like simulations because I do like the classic ways of like making stylized effects. Just in general, less limitations and more sparkles.
Totally agree. I love having performance improvements, things that speed up our simulations and our workflow. What question do you never get asked that you wish you were asked more often?
Honestly, it's a simple one. How do you feel?
Paulina,
So, yeah.
how do you feel?
Today I feel absolutely great.
I'm telling you, man, going to the gym and just getting outside, it does so much for your health, both
It really
physically
does.
and your mental health. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts or things you want to plug today? Anything you want to promote?
I guess I would like to thank my company, Tuatara, just for having me. And I would like to thank actually all of the visual effects artists and all of the people that want to be visual effects artists. I think like if you are a creator that you are helping the world, just joining our sites is just making the world a better place.
Rock on. Thank you so much, Paulina, for coming on today and sharing your story. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much.